What is going on, guys and girls? How are you doing today? It's Singer Roleplay here once again with the second build guide of the highest league. And yeah, I was not very productive at this league, but honestly I was just pretty much very bored at the league already. And even though the build is very cool, I was already very busy with my cat being extremely sick, and I spent literally 2 months fighting for his life. A lot of my time and resources were spent on that, and I would like to thank you all guys for your tremendous amount of support, because we finally pushed through the hardest part of that and he is recovering. So what about the build? This is the BOW Gladiator build, and it's a very popular build. Actually, there's like millions of build guys out there, but I wanted to make something unique for it. And when I started playing, I realized that the build is rather squishy for the Gladiator, which is pretty weird because this is a Gladiator and it's the majority of the builds out there using Divine Flash conversion, which you take elemental damage as chaos, you cap your chaos damage, and elemental damage taken you take as chaos, and practically take very little amount of elemental damage. But it still appeared to be pretty damn squishy, surprisingly, and I died quite a lot from one-shots in the Heist. Heist does a lot of damage, especially in the like 83+. There's like very deadly rares out there. And I started looking for options how to make the build tanky, and I also invested a lot into tankiness of this build, and I think this is probably the tankiest variation, maybe one of the best variations of the bleed bow you can ever find on the internet, because I've spent a lot of time optimizing for defense while still developing good amount of DPS. Eventually I stacked about 40,000 armor with about 1.2 thousand leeching damage per second, as well as 75 block of spell and attacks, and also over 80% of chaos resistance, which makes me taking very little elemental damage. So I think this build guide will be kind of the base for quite a few time, I guess, unless someone else will invent something better than that. But I think it's a pretty solid thing that I did here. I did a lot of experiments. I crafted a lot of gear. I delved quite deep into the fundamental aspects of the build, and I'm really happy with the result. I finished all content. I killed all the bosses, the guardians, the Shaper Guardians, the Elder Guardians, the Cyrus Guardians, the Conquerors, and Cyrus at the hardest possible, Awakening 8. It was not the smoothest fight because I suck at Cyrus 8. I fucking hate the fight overall. Cyrus 7 was easy, but Cyrus 8 was a pain in the ass because the last phase just, you stack a shit ton of debuffs and it just one-shots you with a die beam. If you're better than me at the Cyrus, you will have absolutely no problems doing a Deathless, guys, because the damage is absolutely fantastic. Overall, I can highly recommend build. It was a lot of fun. And also one thing that I want to mention is an absolutely fantastic synergy with the Headhunter belt. This is probably one of the best builds to its Headhunter because you get so much speed and so much damage. You practically became invincible, and the reason why I used it for the Grand Heist is because the synergy is so amazing. You just run like crazy out of the Grand Heist with great speed, very fast, all for the Heist and Grand Heist. Was absolutely amazing, and I have all the videos, guys, for the bosses, for different showcases, how much damage is there. Definitely check it out, guys. Let's get to path of building. One thing that I forgot to mention is how the build functions as a whole. So what is bleed? Bleed, guys, is a physical damage over time, and you need to chance to bleed and source of physical damage, and you inflict bleed. There is only one source of bleed that can be inflicted on the enemy, and it can be stacked. There's always like one stack. If you shoot a different source of bleed, it kind of replaces the source of bleed on the enemy with the strongest bleed that you currently apply. There is also a passive called Crimson Dance, which allows you to apply 8 sources of bleed, which stack to 8 bleeds, but they deal like less damage. In a long fight with bosses, it is a good stuff, and it actually deals more damage. But overall, like 99% of the game, where you just shoot like one arrow, it's practically worthless. So I think it's kind of a wasted potential. And considering the amount of damage that we do in the build, I think a Crimson Dan is like not really worth it. Speaking about how we do damage in this build, there are three sources of bleed in this. Three sources of bleed and debuffs in this build. The first is Split Arrow, is a 6-link, and this is the skill we use for clearing. Full 6-link Split Arrow skill. More than enough for leveling. I didn't use any other sources of damage in leveling, and it was absolutely fine. Just Split Arrow, nothing else. The second is a Puncture, and this is 4-link in the helm called Asylum. Asylum has been added in the Delirium link, and this is a very cool bow. It adds a snipe skill, and this is kind of the long channeling skill. It stacks for about like 5-6 seconds. It charges, and then when you shoot the snipe skill, it triggers the socketed skill, which is Puncture. And what it does is tremendously increases the amount of ailment and hit damage on the socketed skill. So the Puncture deals like shit ton more damage with snipe, and this is probably the only reason why the build functions, because without the Asylum, the damage on Puncture even on a 6-link is like dog shit. So guys, playing without the Asylum in my opinion is not worth it. So if you see like any builds using a 6-link Puncture, this would be absolutely guaranteed shit damage in bosses. Asylum gives you damage. And the third source of a very big source of damage is the Ensnaring Arrow, because Ensnaring Arrow linked with the Ballista Totem support, you allow your totem to shoot ensnaring arrows at the bosses, and this gives a big stacking debuff, and they take tremendous amount of more projectile damage. And basically it's just a big source of damage because it multiplies everything you shoot at the bosses and the enemies. So basically what you do is you plant the snaring totem and then you start sniping with the Puncture and the bosses. That's it. For the rest of the content, you just use Split Arrow. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Let's get to POB now. Before we go further into the video, I would like to stop for a second and thank my Patreon supporters and Twitch subscribers. You guys are making a huge impact on my life and allow me to get going and continue creating content for all of you. Thank you so much. If you want to make it into the list and immortalize yourself on the internet, join Patreon to get sneak peeks and behind the scenes footage of my work. I'm always looking for feedback on my content, guys, in order to improve, so making sure you always leave comment, like or dislike. Your reaction is very important. And remember,
you, yes you, are making a difference.
Alright guys, here we are in the POB, and let's take a look at my actual character. This is the character that I played for the majority of the highest league, literally like a month or so. That's what I have, and that's what the numbers I have on that. So we're starting over there as a gladiator. Just take the attack speed and some of the attack speed and life over here. Transition down below, get the bravery, and start leaning to the left to the life. And the most important thing, and that you want to take early on, is the bloodletting, because it increases damage with bleeding, and bleeding increases damage like 5% faster, expiring, and attack damage against bleeding enemies, damage over time. So this is kind of the GG bleed shit you need to take early on. Then you can transition on the right, take the Golem's Blood and the first jewel socket. To the top, I honestly do not recommend going on to the top early on. It's quite pointless. You'll get there later when you get the Glorious Vanity, Timeless Jewel. But before that, we need to transition to the bottom and take the Bloodless, and then start taking more armor and bleed. Damage over time is damage over time for bleeding over here. Chance to cause bleeding. This is very important to have for your Split Arrow as well, and for your Puncture. Red Storm is like one of the most important things to take early on. So from here, we'll travel all the way here, take the bleed, take life, take the Bloodless, start transitioning into the Red Storm, take Juggernaut, get the Razor's Edge as well. This is very important. And as soon as you get the Lioness Fall, you can start transitioning to Cleaving, because in transition, all the X damage into the bow nodes. Definitely one of the best things. One thing that I will recommend you later on is to get the Lioness Fall with the Corrupted Blood. Corruption as well. It's not too expensive because people corrupt this all the time, so you will eventually get this. No big deal, guys. After that, get the Barbarism, get to the left, and get Resolute Technique. This is not a crit build. We don't care about critting or not. We just need to hit reliably so the enemies can dodge and can evade shit. So we need to hit reliably to apply our bleed. So Resolute Technique is your mandatory thing to take. After that, I would say try to save for the first large cluster jewel because the jewel costs quite a bit. I can't remember how much it was, maybe 2 or 4 exiles, but that's quite expensive because the bleed is kind of the meta a little bit. But yeah, start saving for this, guys. This is your one of the most important early investments. The jewel must have these 3 stats: Battle Hardened, Furious Assault, and Master of Fundamentals. All nothing but physical damage there and some resist. The other 3 jewels and 4 jewels, you will see them in the pathway building. I will not go very deeply into the cluster jewels because they're mostly like chaos damage and damage over time. You will see them over here. They're all listed in the items. You can check them out all. I will just concentrate on the skill tree for now. After you get this large jewel and start picking up more of the mediums and smalls, start transitioning to the devotion, and then as soon as you get more levels, you will be able to buy the rear guard with block, and you can also take the glancing blows to double your chance to block. This is my personal, that's my personal take on the build. And even though I did not invent it, I've seen people using that, but that's like very, very, very few people actually invested into block and went with especially I've never seen anyone using glancing blows, I think. So I think that's kind of a thing that I implemented in the build and that I really like, because along with the Rumi's concoction that gives me 75% block chance and spell block chance, while mapping this makes you practically invincible along with the Divine Flash, 40,000 key armor, and very, very fat life gain on Leech over here. The reason why I have this fat life gain hit here is I took Hematophagy with the Thread of Hope very large ring jewel over here. By the way, I also took the Deadly Draw and the Heavy Draw over here on the right, and the Iron Reflexes, which converts all evasion into the armor. That's why I have a shit ton of fucking armor here. The majority of the flat armor I also get from the actual armor, body armor, and also the flask mods like the Jade and the Basalt and the Granites as well. So I think that's about for the skill tree, guys. And for the Ascendancy, you definitely need to take Blood in the Eyes first, then take Gratuitous Violence, and next we'll start picking up our block shit, Painforge, and the Uber Labis Versatile Commandant, which makes you already very, very ready for the end game with a fully stacked block on your character. That's it for the tree. Alright, guys, let's talk about the skills. And this is the Falling Puncture in the Asylum Helmet. When we use the snipe skill, we actually snipe the puncture at the bosses and they melt as butter. So puncture level 21, 23, it's a little bit of an expensive gem, but not many people give a shit about it, so you may snag it really, really cheaply. Brutality, because we mostly do physical damage, and honestly, I make the build cheaper and I didn't go for Awakened Brutality, because Awakened Brutality is like very expensive, like 20x plus. Fuck that, honestly. I'm not spending that much on my build, so I'll make it more affordable. The Deadly Animals at Awakened Vicious Proj are actually very cheap. Deadly Animals like 1x. Vicious Proj, I don't know, a couple of x, I think. That's not very expensive, like very cheap, so I can recommend getting 2 Awaken, and Brutality, just forget about it. The other 6 kind of link, which is not even need to be linked, is where our Ensnaring Arrow Ballista Totem linked. Debuff is just remember, guys, to plan Ensnaring Totem Ballista all the time you see the bosses or some giant pack of very fat rares. Always plan the Ballista Totem. Huge debuff. It tremendously increases the damage on the bosses. I can actually show you guys how much is that. You can see there's an Ensnaring Arrow. There's the stacks of Ensnaring Arrow. You can see like one stack, and yeah, why it doesn't work? Wait, what the hell? Oh yeah. So basically, yeah, it's like that. No ensnare, no damage. Ensnaring, a shit ton of damage, as you can see. That's about it, guys. So a snaring arrow is a mega giga debuff, definitely mandatory to have. Another thing that I have here is a flashing stone link with maim, another mega huge debuff for the enemies, guys. The another 4 link is the molten shell, which I have on a left button. It's constantly procs all the time because I constantly spam the flask. I get a shit ton of flat armor, so I constantly have a decent amount of molten shell buff on me, as well as increased duration during cry if I need the extra juice with a second wind so I can spam it. That's it. 4 link auras on the gloves, War, Banner, Pride, and Lightning, Clarity. The reason why I have Clarity here is I noticed that, you know, if you don't have the physical damage leech as mana on your ring, which is not easy to get, because you really need the stats, all kind of different stats in the build. So the reason why I use Clarity because it really helps me to speed up the process of mapping. You really don't need to bother about mana. It's not that much of a mana per second, but it does help, guys. It does help. So if you can, as early as possible, use Clarity, guys. Use Clarity. It does help a lot. You will notice that you obviously constantly have mana to shoot, because, you know, if you on a boss encounter and you don't have mana for dash, and then you die because the boss got you eventually, that will suck, guys. So you always need to have your mana up. Another thing is a very cool shit, which I actually didn't know. I think I saw it in some other build guide, which is less duration. A gem linked into the unset ring. In the unset ring, yeah, here we go. This is the unset ring with the Farules. With the Farules, you get Aspect of the Cat. You craft Aspect of the Cat on the ring, which is the unset ring. And if you put the less duration and Aspect of the Cat on the ring, it applies the less duration to the aspect, like the other aspects, of course, right? It can multiply or it can affect the aspect. So what it does, it basically shortens the cycle between the different aspects, because replica for rules, you get the cat's agility, and basically it cycles between the different aspect, between the cycles of the aspect, and you constantly get both frenzy and enduring terrors, guys. Constantly. All the time up, you have Frenzy and Enduring Terrors, and as well as Onslaught because of that. This is mega huge kind of thing to have. Less duration inside the unset ring with the crafted aspect of the cat, guys. Big thing. And here we go to the 6-link split arrow, guys. This is our mapping skill. Split arrow, 6-link, brutality, chance to bleed, deadly elements, vicious proc, chain, or pierce. Between the chain, pierce, and fork, another thing that I want to mention is I tried all of this. I honestly like chain and pierce more. Fork is kind of shitty because the enemies need to be very tight for fork to hit them all. But chain and pierce, they're pretty reliable. Chain just obliterates the enemies, and pierce just pierces like a lot of maps around, a lot of mobs around. Is quite far through, and it just bleeds everything around. You just dies and pops too. So chain and pierce, very close. Fork, not recommended. And the last thing is snipers in the helmet. That's what we channel to shoot out puncture, guys. Aspect of the cat and vulnerability on the second ring. That's about it. Let's talk about the actual items now. Alright, guys, let's talk about the actual items that I have. And actually, the reason why I decided to play this build this league is because I simply bought a pretty decent bow. It's nothing spectacular. It's not the highest DPS in the galaxy, but 400 plus PDPS bow is what you need to look for if you really want to play the build to the good potential and to the end game. So this thing is what I bought for 15 exiles, which is absolutely amazing price, because crafting such bow can be a little problematical, you know. I also explained the different methods of crafting rare bow in the written build guide on the PoE forum, so check it out, guys. There's a very lengthy, very detailed build guide that there explain everything you need to know about the build, the crafting, the different aspects, the gearing, the body armors and shit. So this practically is a thing you need to get. And the two things you need to watch on the bow is the chance to bleed, inflicted with this weapon to deal 100% more damage. This is the Elder mod. I think it's like 80 or 83 plus as far as I can remember. It's in the build guide. And another thing is the flat added physical damage. If you get the flat fizz and the bleeding, you can multi-mod it and craft increased fizz damage and basically attack speed and quality. That's it. That's your 400 plus PDPS bow. That's your endgame weapon. I also have this insane bow which I bought on standard. That's 557 DPS, which is absolutely insane. I've never seen anything higher than that. That was ridiculous. That is just absolutely insane. This is actually, I think it's like random craft because it rolled the tier 1 fizz on a bow with tier 1 added fizz. And that's just silly, guys. I just bought it, and as you can see, it deals like more damage, but this is like insane. This is like fucking insane. You don't need that. You can be fine with that. Anything 400 plus PDPS, you'll be great. For the leveling weapon, there are several options. Silver Branch, which you can later upgrade with a Prophecy to the Silver Bow. Replica Quill Rain. Also, I use Infract Tam. When I got to maps, I bought the 6-link Infract Tam. It was 50 chaos, I think. It was actually the reason why I used it was like the cheapest possible 6-link bow I can get with the colors that I needed. The better option will be Linus Glare because it has like 400 PDPS, which is great. Another thing you'll need to look forward before you can get the rare bow. That's about it. The offhand is our quiver, and this is rare guard simply for the armor and block, mostly for block, guys, because you need 75 block with that. Another option is drill neck. Drill neck gets fees, life, and all kind of shit. Also, it pierces and deals 50% increased damage with hits and elements with the enemies it pierces. So absolutely fantastic quiver for this build. Drill neck or rare guard. That's it. The helmet is Asylum. Try to get Asylum with a max evasion rating, actually. And another thing that you need to look forward is quality, of course, because it increases evasion rating as well as some good corruption. Or if you can get the Puncture helmet chat, try to get it with a +2 to level circuit projectile damage corruption. This is the best corruption you can get on the bow. The second best is increased maximum life as well. I had both. The body armor is like multiple options. The best unique chest you can get for this build is a replica for Ulsfer because it gives you cat's agility. And it means with less duration, jewel and crafted ring, you can get a constant frenzy, enduring turrets, and constant onslaught, which is basically insane. It also has 1,000 evasion and 1,000 armor with quality, and that's like 2,000 plus armor, which is pretty silly towards our iron reflexes, you can see here. This is the best unique chest for this build, guys. The second best is probably Belly of the Beast or Ambush Charge. I used Ambush Charge for quite a lot of time before I started crafting the rares. Perfect Form and Kitsugi also not bad, not bad because all these chests are useful. They have a lot of evasion, which you can convert into the iron reflexes to armor. For the crafted rares, there's a couple of things that you can get. I also explain all the crafted options in the build guide, in the written part on the forums, guys. Check this out, very detailed. I bought this Hunter Crusader influenced Astral Plate for like a couple of exalts and then just throwing the Fizz and Chaos fossils in that. Pristines and Chaos fossils in that. And I just got physical damage from hits taken as Chaos damage because I got 83 Chaos resistance. So basically this is like 15% less physical damage from, which is a big thing. Also life and regeneration that I hit there on the Astral Plate with the resistance. Very cheap. The absolutely best cheap rare option you can get. The next thing that I got is this. I got this from a friend who quit the league, actually. I didn't craft it myself. This is kind of the second best rare options you can get, aside from just a normal Explodey chest. If you can get the Frenzy on hit and Explodey chest with some life on that, that is absolutely amazing. As far as I can tell, the Explodey chest kind of stacks with your Ascendancy because, you know, as a Gladiator, you get this exploding here. Bleeding enemies you kill explode, dealing 10% of the maximum life as physical damage. Gratuitous violence, guys. And this shit, I think, it's kind of stacks on top of this. I'm not entirely sure how does it Is it like one after the other, or it just stacks? But I think I noticed that it does deal more damage and it clears the packs faster. See if you can get this, Frenzy and Explodey, you'll be all set. You don't need Ferrule. Ferrule is just better, but this is really amazing. You get the Frenzies all the time, you get Explosives, faster clear speed, you get the life. Absolutely amazing, guys. The gloves are quite a pain in the ass to get. Physical damage over time with a shit ton of dexterity, because we need 185 dexterity in order to be able to use the Citadel bow, guys. 185 dexterity is a giant pain in the ass. I can guarantee you that. You'll be starved for dexterity and intelligence, mostly dexterity for the bow. Intelligence, you don't care much, but dexterity, big pain in the ass, because you need a lot of that, and this is one of the sources we can get a shit ton of dex along with physical damage over time multiply on the Hunter Influence gloves. That's why you need this. This is like the absolutely perfect possible gloves for this build. That's about it. The boots are actually nothing spectacular except for being the Hunter boots with bleeding so inflict deals damage faster once again. These are pretty insane boots that I bought for, I think, 15 exalts. The absolutely fantastic boots, 30 move speed, resistance, bleeding faster, cannot be frozen, and life. G fucking G's, absolutely the best. The amulet, guys, two options. First is something rare with something like that, with 1 billion of dexterity, intelligence, and life, and something useful. Or just Astra Mantis. Astra Mantis, guys, gives you pretty much the same amount of life, dexterity, intelligence, and overall great. But it doesn't give you any resist, it doesn't give you any damage, it doesn't give you anything except for the stats. So, if you will be lucky, try to get the rare, something like that. If you don't lucky, as like can't buy anything, use Astra Mantis. The thing you need to anoint is the growth and decay, because it's one of the best things you can get for this build. This is basically 20% increased damage over time, 10% to damage over time multiply, and regeneration. One of the best things to have on that. The rings is once again the unset ring with less duration, where I crafted the aspect of the cat. I crafted this ring myself. That's my personal craft. You buy the unset wall ring, which is like a couple of chaos, actually very cheap. And then you basically chaos spam it till you get the vulnerability on hit. And then I just multi-modded it. I removed some dog shit. It had life already. And just crafted the aspect of the cat. That was it. That was very easy. I chaos spammed it till I get vul on hit. Removed the shit. Crafted the aspect of the cat. GG's, guys. The second ring as nothing spectacular, just 1 billion of resistance there. It's like a shit ton of resistance. How much is that? Like a 180 resistance there? The hardest part on this was to get the physical damage, physical attack damage, which is mana. This is like the top tier ring you can get for this build. So if you can get that, that will probably means that you don't need clarity over here, because if you hit something, you get a mana back. But if you don't have that, that will probably help. The belt is a Rislav's Coil. This is an expansive belt. Things you need to look for this belt is the last minimal physical attack damage as low as possible, and the more maximal physical attack damage as max as possible. It also uses the catalyst for attack damage, and you can get more and less, and more or less, basically. But overall, you still get more. Well, that sounds weird, but that's it. The flasks are Rumi's concoction for block, Quicksilver fast with increased armor, Jade for flat evasion with increased evasion with shit ton of evasion here, like 20,000 more armor gear, and Basalt for reduced physical damage taken. Curses, Divine Life, nothing spectacular. The jewels, guys, is I'll start with the uniques. Linus Fall with Corrupted Blood, like I said, on the left side to transform the X nodes into the bows. Glorious Vanity here with Xibakwa, guys. Xibakwa, don't forget that. Xibakwa transforms shit into Divine Flash over here and gives you potentially more Chaos Resistance over here, and in some other places I got Chaos Res over here and a Code of Chaos over here, so I get a little more. The rest are mostly garbage. So Divine Flash, what it does is it gives you max Chaos Res, as well as 50% of elemental damage taken is Chaos damage. Absolutely amazing. It has been nerfed but I think it's still pretty damn good. Just get your Glorious Vanity, throw Divines till you get Skibakwa. Check the Chaos Res on the tree. If you get nothing, keep on rolling. I also get the faster bleeds on these nodes here, but honestly, traveling here is not worth it. You can just instead travel over here and get more damage on the left side instead of investing into this, just not to get this one. So that's about it. The other one unique is the Fredo Hope with the very large ring. Like I said, I explained already, I'm getting the Iron Flexes, I'm getting the Hematophagy, and I get 2, which is a deadly draw and heavy draw over there for 4 damage over time. The normal cluster jewels is the smalls with just purely much Chaos Res, life, whatever Chaos life you can get. Large with free feast damage, mediums with, once again, bleeding, and chaos resistance. That's it. Chaos resistance, bleeding, damage over time. That's all you need, guys, to concentrate on. And the normal jewel is this. This is also a very expensive jewel, but you can snag them cheaply. Max life, global feast damage, chance to bleed, increased damage with bleeding, and bleeding duration. This is pretty GG. You can snag them sooner or later, but that's about it. I think I explained everything, guys. You can see the Arakali and slot over here, and those 2 passive points as the bandits. Everything else you can see in the build guide written in the forums. There's a lot of shit over there. Take a look. Thanks for watching. Alright, guys, once again, thanks for watching the build guide. It is one of the longest build guides I've done in a long time. This is pretty massive. There's a lot of cool aspects. I really hope you enjoyed it. The build was a ton of fun to play. It's very strong, very powerful. You will most likely enjoy playing this build because it's just crazy fun, actually. Crazy fun. It's kind of need to get used to it because the snipe skill is just hard to snipe. And it's actually snipe, guys. You're sniping shit. So if you like sniping, you will like it. If you don't like sniping and you hate missing, you will probably don't like this skill. But still, split arrow fantastic, guys. Clearing is amazing. Mega synergy with the Headhunter. A billion ton of fun, guys. Can 100% guarantee you build if you never play the bleed bow. Very lengthy, detailed build guide I wrote for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.